So, I haven't had a chance to talk about some of these in a while. But first of all, I want to talk about, what's going on with the Pink Benefits by TROUBLETRO. And basically, long story short, it's continuing where it left off about a couple months ago. Betty has met up with a boyfriend, a husband, whoever. And at first, he's a little taken back by, the, disguise or the body she is in the form of, or in this case, in possession of. And he basically has to inform her after she, basically pours, literally melts out of the mouth of this woman and reforms into that form herself, but then changes her face a little bit to be more recognizable. He basically explains to her that this woman that she possessed at the end of the last issue, or the last chapter months ago, is a former agent, a former teammate that he and his, I guess you could say agency knew of, that turned her back on them and everything, and that now she's basically on the, I guess you could say, the most wanted list of people they need to bring in or need to question and stuff like that, to know why she betrayed them, and why she when it is doing basically doing a gun for hire kind of thing for the enemy and everything that they're against, or at least the rivals that they're against. So long story short, that's kind of where the new one or the new set of chapters began, and it looks like they're going to go into the next chapter and have a little bit of, or the next few chapters, and have a little bit of, I guess you could say, melty, gooey fun, according to what Trouble TRO hinted at towards me and others. Like, oh, this is, yeah, you're going to get this in this chapter. As far as the Emily character goes, she had, in the previous chapters months ago, had shapeshifted into the form of a man. She took on the name of Ethan, and she was getting it on with this strip dancer, this club dancer, this exotic dancer named Grace. And then all of a sudden, during the time she was getting on with her as Ethan, her body just started to go liquidy, contort, that melty, if you will. And instead of, going in her like, let's say, a man would, because like I said, Emily was in the disguise of a man, she instead decides to flow into her, literally into her mouth. She wraps around and flow into her, and in her thoughts, because you can read her thoughts and everything, her narrative thoughts. She basically says that she has no idea, what happened at that time, but there was a feeling of that she wanted to be inside of Grace, to be a part of her, and that's basically where we are now. To where in this latest chapter, not only do we get a hint of, you know, the fact that Betty and her husband are going to go off and do their own thing, get intimate, and maybe Betty going to get gooey, melty with him. But we find out that Emily is, still around. Emily is herself again, but she is inside the body of Grace. Basically, she's, she's basically inhabiting Grace's body, and she finds out from, I guess, the alien being or the spirit or whatever it is that's been, counseling her, kind of communicating with her, helping her out, advising her, that, what happened is she allowed, that a shape, basically they tell her, this entity, they tell her that a shapeshifter's natural state is fluid. So in other words, most of the time, to really like get access to, become anything, you got to get very melty, liquidy, gooey, if you will. Um, but they go on to explain that what she did is she, went into Grace and merged her genetic matrix with Grace, her DNA, her genetic DNA matrix with Grace, and now she, as Emily, is in control of Grace's body. And basically, along with that, she also retains her powers. She retains her powers of shape shifting and everything. And Emily, you can kind of tell it's like a little hesitant, not too much, but then the more the spirit or the voice of this of the power kind of tells her, hey, don't worry, everything's fine. Grace is going to be fine, and everything. Because they say that Grace basically is kind of like in a deep sleep. Like she's in a I wouldn't say a, well, basically, yeah, I would say she's in kind of a coma, is what she's in. So, but it's not like a permanent coma. It's more like, as soon as, Emily exits her, it's going to be like she won't remember anything, and it'll be more like, a hangover from drinking too much. That's what I can assume. So, so basically, Emily is cool with that, and she's like, okay, if that's the case, I'm fine with it. As long as I still have my powers, it's good. So she decides to go on, and perform as Grace at towards the end of the chapter by basically saying, let's give them now it's time to give the audience, the paying Patreons there, you know, at that club, a show that they will now forget. And you gotta wonder exactly what she's gonna. And you gotta wonder exactly what she means by that. Like giving them a show that they'll never forget. I can only assume she's gonna, grow certain parts of her to you huge sizes. She might just elasticate, shapeshift, melt. Who knows? We'll have to see. We'll have to see what Trouble TRO has planned. But it's definitely definitely so far a good return to form, good continuation, and definitely what Trouble TRO hinted to myself and others is going to be coming to pass. It just takes a while for that to happen. Because what they told me is it takes a while to do the rendering of certain things and all that, certain characters and elements. So, it's this would explain why it's almost like a month. It takes about a month or so, if not less, to do, to do these, to not do, but to release these comics on Patreon and so on. It takes a while to do that. And I can respect wanting to take the time to make this all happen and make sure there's no mistakes within within the within the comics and the pages themselves. So yeah, it takes a while and everything for this to all come together, which is why you get like about a month, if not less than a month, worth of waiting time between, chapters and pages and all that. And also you got to realize that it's not just, like one page they're doing like 10 to 15 pages. So it takes time to render. And sometimes they have other projects they're working on. Sometimes like at this time of year, they're going to have family to be with. So it takes a bit, so it takes its toll. It takes its time, you know, going, to process and everything. But I think he's doing a good job so far. I think what we're getting so far is great. He's also working on the anything you want, or anything you want to be a comic, and that also takes time. But both so far are turning out good. But Pink Benefits is definitely one I think you should really pay attention to, especially if you're into the melty, gooey, liquidus, if you will, that gets used during erotic moments and everything like that. But let me know what your thoughts are down below. Comment if you like. And until next time, guys, I will talk to you all.